All right, welcome to Unlocking Motivation, where we tackle common strategies with staying motivated. My name is Laura Dalton, and I am here with Jamie Stewart and Amy Witcher. Um, our main focus today is to explore how understanding what truly motivates students, combined with real classroom expectator strategies, can help teachers, parents, and educators better support classroom learners in staying motivated, building confidence, and achieving success. We'll share some insights gained from our direct experiences and combined with academic theories that can transform how you approach challenges in the classroom. Let's start with, can each of you give me your current view of classroom motivation and why this is such an important topic for us to talk about?
So for me, I feel that one of the biggest challenges I see today is that students really lack motivation to initiate tasks on their own. If we are doing group led, they're fine, but the moment you release them on their own, or even if it's something that they've done before, so they know how to do it, they have a hard time starting on their own. And especially if it requires time outside of the classroom, they don't have that motivation to get it done. So if it doesn't get finished during class time, then students really lack that incentive to finish it.
A couple things I see is the first one is the pressure that these students have with grades, testing, and comparing themselves to other students in the class. I think this performance pressure really triggers anxiety and withdrawal, especially for some of those struggling learners. But then another big thing I see is that students just want to finish tasks quickly to check things off their list. They have their to-do list, got it done, check. It doesn't matter how well I did it, I got it done. So that when they do hit that snag or roadblock, they do one of two things. They either breeze over it really quickly and incorrectly just to have it done, or they shut down. There's not a lot of productive struggle happening in the middle school classroom specifically.
All right, so we're going to kind of start talking about understanding the why behind we have these motivation struggles. So have you ever found yourself or someone you care about saying things like, I can't do this, or what's the point? We often kind of label those remarks or that kind of behavior as laziness. But my journey, like most of the others I've observed, has shown me that it's a lot more complex than that. So the problem really isn't laziness, it's about beliefs. The first theory that we're going to talk about is causal attribution theory, or the why did that happen theory. This was developed by Weiner in 1985, and it explains how people interpret the causes of their successes and failures, and then how these interpretations then influence their future motivations, emotions, and behaviors.
So this summer, I have had the opportunity to teach my 6-year-old granddaughter to ride her bike. And as we know, you don't just get on a bike and ride and like that's it. So there's been a lot of her saying, I can't do this. I failed at this. She falls off and there's, temper tantrums and crying and whatnot. I'm bad at this. I'm never going to be able to do this. So she is then attributing her lack of being able to ride a bike to a lack of ability, which makes it an internal, stable, uncontrollable cause. But research shows that this leads to helplessness and reduced persistence. So there's no grit, as we say.
And similarly, I've been working with my 6-year-old son at home on his hygiene routines. In June, he had his dental cleaning, and we found out that he does have a cavity. He overheard the dentist telling me that he's just not doing a great job brushing his teeth. And so I started to see him attribute those same things to stable and uncontrollable causes, thinking that it's just who I am. I'm just not good at brushing my teeth. And that then led to him avoiding doing it completely or getting frustrated every time he was asked to do it. So what we ended up seeing at home was him just completely shutting down when he was asked to brush his teeth because, well, I just can't do it. I can't do it. I just can't brush my teeth. So I'm not going to do it tonight.
The next theory is the expectancy value theory, or the can I do it and does it matter theory. This theory by Eccles and Wigfield in 2002, it theorizes that motivation is influenced by two key factors. First, we have expectancy, so the belief in the likelihood of success. And then the second one is value, so how worthwhile is the task? Task value has to include, or it can be intrinsic, utility, attainment, and critically cost. So a personal observation that I had with this theory was with my 12-year-old daughter, who struggles to keep her room clean. And when I ask her to clean her room, she says things like, well, I don't know where to start. So that kind of is that low expectancy part. Or she'd say, well, what's the point? Because her room always ends up messy again. That's that low value. So she perceived the cost of cleaning it outweighed the benefits. So she just felt overwhelmed or bored with the task.
And similarly, another thing with my 6-year-old this summer was we were asking him to be productive. He likes to spend a lot of time watching TV, playing video games. And we were like, okay, well, this summer we're going to be productive. We're going to do some productive tasks. So what I asked him to do was to do more things that were creative, educational, or physically active before having his screen time. And at first he really resisted those things, and that was lacking the expectancy in certain tasks and also not seeing their value or benefit. And that the cost of delaying his screen time for him, though, was really, really high.
The third and final theory is the goal orientation theory, or the why am I doing this? What am I here for? This theory by Elliott in 2022 describes that the reasons learners adopt for engaging in tasks, performance avoidance goals, involve striving to avoid appearing incompetent or failing. They fail to engage in a task because they don't want to look like they can't do it. They don't want to appear that they can't achieve this goal. The observation I have from my own personal experience is truly my own. In my graduate studies, I found myself in a place of, let me just cross it off the list. Let me just get this assignment done and turned in. That whole mentality, I just need to get it done. I just need to get it done. Primarily focused on performance avoidance. I didn't even care. I cared, but not, I really want to understand this. It was just, let me get it done. Avoiding missing deadlines rather than engaging deeply with the learning. I would rather have just crossed it off the list, gotten the A, done whatever I needed to do to get that, but couldn't tell you necessarily what I was learning or what I was doing.
And by exploring these three theories, we can really break down what motivation is truly about. Motivation isn't about just pushing someone to do something. It's about understanding and addressing their underlying beliefs about their own ability to complete tasks, about the task's value to them, and about their purpose for engaging in the tasks.
Okay, so then we want to talk about different strategies for each one of these, for 4 different strategies. So 4 transformative strategies for boosting motivation to help improve motivation in your classroom, in your home, whatever. So now that we understand the roots of motivational issues, let's dive into some practical strategies that you can apply, whether it's at home, in the classroom, as a leader. These strategies are directly informed by both personal journeys and the experience of others, and they are grounded in solid theory. The first one is the growth mindset. This was kind of an educational buzzword for a little while, but there's some real value and truth in it. It's reframing failure and emphasizing effort. So it's not so focused on failing as much as it is getting things, is understanding and putting in the effort and showing the grit. This strategy helps individuals see success as dependent on effort and strategy rather than fixed ability. Mistakes become valuable steps towards progress. So, for example, for Lane, for riding her bike, I kept normalizing the struggle. Yeah, this is hard. Everybody struggles the first time around. Nobody gets it the right time. Everybody falls off their bike the first time they're riding it. How do we get better? We try again. We get back on the bike. How do we get better? We try again. We get back on the bike. I connected her current challenge of riding her bike to past challenges, saying things like, you didn't know how to write your name at first. We didn't just put a crayon in your hand and you could write your name. You had to learn, and you had to learn each letter, and you had to put it together. And now you can write your name. Same thing with like zipping her jacket. How much she just kept practicing, and those things just happen now. You don't have to think about them. I tried to emphasize the effort over the ability. The more you practice, the better you'll be. The more you practice, the less you're going to fall off your bike. If you say things like, you're good at this, then in their brains, they can stop. They don't have to keep trying. Or they interpret that as, this is as good as I'm going to get, so I'm good, rather than pushing themselves a little further. I also tried to remind her that as she fell off, that's part of learning. You're getting stronger every time you try. You're getting better every time you try.
Well, and similarly with Nolan's hygiene, I shift that focus back to his actions that he did well. Like, oh, you remembered tonight to brush your teeth. That shows responsibility. Or you did this part of brushing your teeth right. That shows growth. And so that really connects his effort with success. So when we talk about how that connects to theory, we can see that that aligns perfectly with the causal attribution theory. By us helping Lane and Nolan shift their attributions from something that's internal, stable, and uncontrollable causes to things that are internal, unstable, and controllable, like practice and persistence. And that right there is what fosters that growth mindset.
So how do we apply this? So for parents, when your child is struggling, focus on their effort, what they're doing right, and what they've learned, not just the outcome. So you want to say, you really concentrated on that puzzle, or what did you try differently this time? For educators, we can give real world examples of people who succeeded through persistent effort and not just natural talent like athletes or inventors. You also want to incorporate kind of reflection activities. Have students reflect and ask questions like, what strategies did you use? What do you think you can do differently next time? Using language that emphasizes growth and adding that yet to student statements at the end. So I don't know this yet. This is really crucial for striving readers and writers, and for students with exceptionalities, because a lot of times they believe that they already have this fixed limitation.
So moving to strategy two we have is boosting confidence. And the way that we can boost confidence is by scaffolding tasks and providing some control. So this strategy directly increases our individual beliefs that the likelihood of success, or that expectancy, is higher, because it makes overwhelming tasks more manageable and gives individuals a sense of agency.
So in my situation with my daughter and her room, instead of, when I just tell her, go clean your room, go pick up, that's an overwhelming task to her. So I broke the overwhelming task into smaller, much more manageable steps. So again, instead of just saying, you need to clean your room, I would say, okay, well, let's right now or today, let's pick up the clothes. And then tomorrow I could say, let's work on cleaning off the surfaces of like your dresser and your vanity. So in doing that, that kind of makes it a little bit not quite so overwhelming, these little steps to get to the whole outcome that we want. I also gave my daughter a visual checklist so she could see as she's cleaning these aspects of her room. And then I also helped and clean and organize an area with her so that I could model these strategies with her. And that kind of gave her a sense of mastery as well.
Well, and that scaffolding task part is really important. But the other part of this boosting confidence is also providing some control. So, like with Nolan, my son, with his summer activities, asking him to be a little bit more productive rather than just sit on his beanbag and watch TV all day. At first, I'd just given him the checklist of do something active, do something creative, do something educational. But then we ended up modifying his checklist so that he had more voice and more choice. So under creative, we had things like building Legos or drawing. Under educational, we had things like read a book, write a letter to someone, things like that, so that he had some choice in the activities. And so that kind of did both. It scaffolded it by breaking it down into more manageable pieces, but then also provided that control and voice in that. A couple things like Amy with modeling with her daughter, also participating in some of those tasks with Nolan when he first started, so that we could say, hey, these are things you like to do. These are things you can do. You have confidence in doing these things. And then once you do these things that you can do and that you like to do, you have the freedom to do your screen time or play your video games, watch your TV.
So how this theory connects is this directly addresses the expectancy component of the expectancy value theory. By scaffolding tasks and offering choices, confidence is boosted and the perceived cost of the task is reduced. So how we can apply this for educators when teaching complex subjects, break down the lessons into smaller units. We call it chunking. Just break it down piece by piece by piece, rather than giving them this great big thing and saying, here you go. If you break it down, then they can address it a little easier. And feel success each time they finish a section, then they feel success and then they'll want to go on to the next. For bilingual, multilingual students, your ESOL, ELL students, offer choices in how they demonstrate their understanding. They probably cannot write an essay, but they could do a visual demonstration. They might be able to give you an oral presentation, something along those lines, something that is more tailor-made for them. Students with exceptionalities, you need to provide clear visual steps and opportunities for mastery. Give them a step. Okay, try it again. Give them a step, try it again with the proper feedback. Here's what you could have done better. Next time you might want to try this, and give them the opportunities for corrections so that they can feel the success and see what the right method is. For general leadership, breaking, again, it's no different than working with students. Break down larger projects into smaller, achievable milestones. Empower team members by allowing them to choose how they approach certain tasks or aspects of it, and increasing their ownership and buy-in, less micromanaging.
All right, so the third strategy is enhance task value by connecting to personal meaning and interest. So this is where when people are more motivated when they perceive a task is worthwhile or useful, enjoyable, or it's important to who they are, to their identity. So going back to my daughter and her room, I helped her connect a clean room with something that mattered to her. She's 12. almost 13. So being social and her friends coming over, like that's a huge motivator for her. So connecting, having a clean room with being able to have friends over, that really spoke to her. Also, being able to find her favorite T-shirts and hoodies and things that she's, always asking me, Mom, where did I put it? Being able to find those things more easily also adds value for her. I also kind of gave her control over how she wants to arrange her room, arrange her space, like where is she going to put her books, or let her pick out a new decoration, or where she's going to put that decoration. And so that gives her a sense of ownership. And then giving her small and an intrinsic motivator. So while we were cleaning, or while she's cleaning, letting her listen to her Amazon playlist instead of Mom's music, kind of also made the experience more enjoyable.
Yeah, and with Nolan this summer too, praising him with statements like, doing these activities is going to help your brain grow strong so you can be better at Minecraft building. Really connecting that back to the why, and giving some sort of value to that. And also, he likes school a lot, and it's summer. We don't want your brain turning mushy over the summer. You want to still be one of the smartest in your class when you go back in the fall. We want to make sure that you are going to be able to be successful with those tasks at that point. So this connects to the theory of the expectancy value theory. And this is the value component specifically of that, because it has the intrinsic utility and attainment values. So when the personal relevance of and enjoyment of the task are clear, the motivation to complete that task is going to naturally increase. We hear students say all the time, why do I need to know this? When am I ever going to use this in the real world? So really giving them the why and helping them build some intrinsic value in a task is really important. So when we are applying this in the real world, we can see this in a few different ways. Specifically for educators, if we link the academic concepts to their interest or real world applications, they can see the why. They can see when they're going to use this or why they need to know it. Like for striving readers, letting them choose books on the topics that they like. For multilingual students, connect that back to their culture, back to their language, use authentic materials from their cultures or languages, and that really helps build the personal interest and real world application. For leaders, you can help your team see the broader impact and purpose of their work instead of just a task that you've given them. Help them see how their contributions are going to align with the overall values of the company or the school or the mission or whatever it might be, as well as their personal growth goals that they have.
Okay, so finally, strategy 4 is a shift towards mastery, shift towards a mastery approach for goals. This involves focusing on developing competence and understanding that mastery approach rather than simply demonstrating competence or avoiding failure. So the difference between fully understanding what's happening or being asked or the assignment or the project or whatever, as opposed to let me just get that A and memorize the study guide so I can get the A or whatever. This again falls directly in my little world here because I was so focused on let me just do what I have to do so I can cross it off the list. Let me just I don't know, whatever. So it could just be done rather than understanding when am I ever going to use this? Why am I using this? And really taking in that information. It was to shift that whole my own mindset to make that shift. I created a goal focused list connecting each course objective to my personal and professional growth. How am I going to use what I learn in this class in my classroom? How am I going to use what I learn in this class to my home or whatever, especially this motivation class? It prepares me to support all learners, rather than just, let me just cross it off. Let me just accomplish this. If I've got a mastery approach in my classroom, then my my students with exceptionalities, I know I need to give them more than one opportunity. I need to give them a chance to understand why they're doing it and try it again and get better and get better and get better. I reframed my task language from complete this discussion post to explore how goal orientation impacts student motivation. Like, it wasn't just, my to-do list wasn't just complete this discussion post. It was, how does this impact this? What am I going to do with this? Pulling it in so that it's more meaningful. One of the other things I have done is sharing my new knowledge with my daughter, who also is a teacher. We have been able to have some really great conversations where I go, hey, let me tell you what I learned today about motivation, blah, blah, blah. And we have a whole conversation. Then it allows for me to have some deeper understanding because I'm explaining it to her and pulling her into it. It allows her to ask me questions that cause me to think and challenge me to be better than where I already am. But so it's really making both of us better teachers. But at the same time, it was some accountability, because she'd be like, hey, what's going on with this assignment? Where are you on this? Well, how come you don't understand this kind of thing? So that whole goal, mastery goal, pulling it in more really applied really directly to me for sure.
And this strategy directly goes and applies with the goal orientation theory. So when you are shifting your performance avoidance mindset, so that crossing things off just to get them done, to the mastery approach goals. So really understanding why you're doing these things or why it matters, that kind of fosters an enjoyment, and it reduces anxiety, and it promotes a much deeper cognitive engagement when you are more focused on the, why are we learning this? Why is it important? Like, how is it going to be useful? So for educators in the classroom, we can emphasize understanding concepts over just merely earning the grade. So we don't have to focus so much on that numerical or, the A, B, whatever. We want to make sure that they understand whatever it is that we're teaching. So you want to encourage students to set learning goals of performance, not just grades. So an example of that would be like they could write, I will understand how photosynthesis works, instead of just saying, I will get an A on the test. So this is really important for our gifted students who they kind of avoid challenges because they want to maintain that perfect record. I know my kids last year, they were some of the worst about completing something just to complete it and get it checked off their list. So the gifted students, it really helps them. And also for just all students in general, it kind of helps reduce that test anxiety. For leaders, encouraging your teams to focus on continuous skill development and learning from mistakes rather than just achieving whatever that goal point or that metric is. So framing challenges as an opportunity for growth and gaining knowledge.
Okay, so as you can see, these theories and strategies don't operate in silos. They work together to create a powerful approach to motivation. They go hand in hand, they work together. A growth mindset, the causal attribution, naturally supports higher expectancy and encourages a focus on mastery goals.
When we apply all these strategies that we've talked about, we move beyond that just reward and consequence model to truly address the diverse needs of individual students or people that we are working with. For striving readers and writers, multilingual students, gifted students, or students with exceptionalities, These approaches really provide a framework for empathetic and effective support. When we have scaffolding, choices, connecting to personal relevance, or emphasizing effort over ability, all of those are vital tools for all learners. As parents, educators, and leaders, we can be mindful of internal drivers, and that allows for more compassionate and effective interventions. So it really comes down to all about being nurturing confidence and purpose and not just demanding compliance.
And so, what we've learned from this overall experience is that this journey it's really been personally transformative for me as well as the others. I know I've realized that motivation is a dynamic and ever-changing process that requires like a consistent nurturing and reinforcement. It's not a one-time fix. It's not something that you just do one time, it works, and you never have to do it again. It's something that you're going to have to be consistent at. Understanding the why behind behavior has also made me much more patient with my daughter. It has made me more intentional as a parent, and I look forward to being more patient and intentional as an educator in this upcoming school year. These small, thoughtful changes are really they're so deeply rooted in these theories, and they can have a surprisingly big impact on a person's confidence, on their resilience, and just their overall engagement in whatever the task or is. So it's really deepened my empathy for others who struggle with similar issues.
And that motivation all comes back to what we talked about right at the beginning, that motivation isn't something we can force on someone, but it is something that we can nurture by helping others believe that they can succeed and showing them why it truly matters.
So we would encourage each of you, whether you are a parent supporting your child, an educator shaping young minds, or a leader guiding a team, to reflect on these strategies. Try incorporating even one into your practice this week. Observe the shift both in others and in yourself. The confidence, resilience, and engagement you foster will be incredibly rewarding. You will not be able to tackle them all at once. Pick one and watch the impact that it has on you and the people around you. So thank you for joining us today on Unlocking Motivation. Remember, empowering others through understanding their motivation is the key to their success and ultimately to yours.